artist. My pieces are, I have one piece in the back there. It's the first one, the family behind bars. And then I have a couple of pieces on the far left wall, the grays and whites. And then the installation of the cherry blossoms are mine right there in the corner, along with the wall pieces.
And Judy?
I'm Naomi, Judy Shintani, and I would say I do whatever art material is necessary to tell the story. So I consider myself a narrator, actually. And I'm often telling other people's stories, but mine are woven into that. So my work is the Pledge Allegiance flag on the end there. And then in the back, I have the Remembrance Shrine lantern, and then the illuminations of the wall piece with the rope, and then Innocent Dreamer, which I just created a augmented reality piece that goes with it.
And Shari? Hi, I'm Shari Aria DeBoer, and my medium mostly do painting and printmaking and some book arts. My works are the two top etchings and monotypes below there, and then the two watercolors back here, and then these are my great uncles, they're historical works back here. And Ellen?
Hi, Ellen Bepp. I consider myself now to be a mixed media artist. I sort of transitioned from fabric and textiles and weaving, but I'm using more sort of a distillation of fabric and handmade paper, and I just mix it up, whatever's around. So my work is, I have three pieces in the corner over here. The long piece, the piece that looks like a hoppy jacket, and a hand-cut paper piece coming out of a vase in the back. And then across the way, I have a series of 6 collages on panels, but they're mixed media, so they're handmade paper, fabric, painting, and transfers.
And Reiko?
I'm Reiko Fujii, and my work is right back there with the television screen. It's a documentary that I produced and edited, and then the 2 monoprints above the TV are in conjunction with Lenore Chinn, who's here, photographer and amazing artist, painter. She's right in the front row here. And then I have the one in the middle, which is a mixed media piece. And then the glass kimono is mine. And then the picture of my daughter's back there. And I'm gonna cough. Sorry. Okay.
So, does anybody have a question they'd like to ask or a comment? Yes, please, in the green.
Where will we be able to see this again? I mean, are we able to have access? I just got back from, I was at the Heart Mountain pilgrimage, and this is where I heard about this. I got the pamphlet, and I was just so moved by all these. My grandparents were, their nieces, they were in Heart Mountain. My mother is interesting to hear Sansei Granddaughters. My mother was a Sansei at 8 years old, interned, but where would we be able to see this again, and I can share it, or we can share it? It's wonderful, the document.
Thank you very much. Are you talking about the film or the show?
This film we just saw.
Do you guys want to talk about just the dates of the show, and then is there a possibility of seeing the film in another way?
I don't know. Do we know?
I don't think we have it slated to be screened again publicly.
So
Yeah,
maybe
they've shown in a couple of film festivals the last couple of years. But
Go ahead. I was just going to say, we have a little list here that we're hoping to be sending you emails for future events. So be sure to sign it and put a little note there. That, yeah, you especially, want to see that.
I just wanted to ask her. I'm sorry, my hearing is really bad, all my years of playing taiko, but that's my excuse. But did you mention you were at the Heart Mountain pilgrimage a couple of weeks ago? I was there too. So we should talk later. Okay.
does anybody want to see how long the current exhibit will be up?
This exhibit will be up through September 3rd.
So if you want to bring your traveling journey partners, you have a little bit longer.
We have some other events happening also. Next weekend we have the 50 objects. Nancy Ukai is going to come show remnants of Tanforan, different objects that were here and the stories behind them. And then Sudu for Solidarity is going to come give a program on the 28th. And we have a couple of tours coming up. I think Shari's doing a tour on September 3rd. Yeah. Did I leave anything else out? Pardon?
The workshop.
Oh, I'm sorry. Very important. Kathy's doing a tour and she's doing a workshop. Do you want to talk about it, Kathy?
Oh, yes. I'm giving a workshop of my cherry blossoms. I'm going to facilitate a class on how to make cherry blossoms. So if you see the cherry blossoms in my installation, each cherry blossom honors a loved one, and I used decorative fabrics and trims, and it's just a really beautiful way to honor someone that you care about. And the workshop is free. It's from 1 to 3 o'clock next Sunday on the 21st. And I would love to have you join us. There is still room. And from 3:30 to 4, I'll be leading a tour of the exhibition here. So you're welcome to come back, and we hope to see you.
And people can, if you want to do the workshop, they could bring a photo.
Yes.
Or bring 2 photos or some
photos.
memorabilia. Is there another question? Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Ivy. I'm speaking on behalf of an analog guest attendee. Her name is Sally Douglas Baker. Her question is, could the artists talk about the social justice work that they do or have done?
So the question is, could the artists talk about their social justice work? Anybody want to take that one? Okay, Ellen. Since I know Ellen, and we do things together.
Okay. Well, I consider myself a cultural worker, and I believe that's very much aligned with social justice work. And I guess I feel that's where my voice has come to be the most creative and impactful. I'm hoping, anyway. And in addition to that, I've gotten involved with a community arts, cultural arts, performing arts organization called Destiny Arts, Cultural Arts Center, as has our moderator, Pam. And we work with young people who are using movement and dance to further social justice issues and identity issues as young people. We're talking teenagers and preteens. And so right now I'm feeling like that's an avenue that I'm involved in that is connected to my social justice work.
And we dance hip hop with the teens. So we're pretty spry for our age, I guess. Does anybody else want to know me?
One of the installations that I've done called Dream Refuge for children in prisons, which I did talk about in the film a bit, but I worked with different communities to bring their stories to life through their voice and through writing and through creating images. So I worked with two Native American women that told their stories about being in boarding schools. And I also worked with seniors and family members who told their stories of the Japanese American incarceration. And I also worked with children at the border. I worked with a woman that was Belinda Arriaga, who went down to the border working with the children that were in the refugee detention centers and camps. And so she gathered these stories, and then we worked with some children in Half Moon Bay that were the voice of the children, and they told their stories in English and in Spanish. And so that exhibition has been traveling a bit, and it's now in Japanese American Museum in Oregon, in Portland, and then it's going to be going to the Wing Luke in Seattle. And it's just a way to connect these different stories of incarceration, especially of children in the United States.
Anybody else want to take that on? Okay. So it does sound like starting from the person that you are, gathering objects, never throw anything away, right? And I know that's an artist problem, huh? And also starting from that story and interviewing people possibly in your family or possibly your neighbor, and we can create our own story and our own work. So that's often a question, well, how did you do that? So, Reiko, you talked a little bit about in the film. Do you want to talk a little bit about your process, like how you got started and then how you came to where you are today?
Well, I'll just say a few words about my series, The Detained Alien Enemy, and that documentary back there is where it started. I went to my relatives, and then I went to a writing group in Berkeley, and I tried to get some stories from them, just like probably interviewing them for maybe 10 minutes about what they had, any memories, or how they felt about being in the camps, and then I took maybe between 2 and 5 minutes, and then I made a documentary of some of the people, and I collected photographs from them. And so the photographs to me were so interesting, and because I take a lot of pictures and I'm into looking at photographs, I decided to make a box. It's not here, but it was a light box, and the light box had jars in it with their photographs on it while they were in the camps. So I think there were 12 in the box, and then I decided, well, I want to make something bigger. So I made my first Detained Alien Enemy kimono. This is number 2, and so that's how I came up with this series, Detained Alien Enemy series. And you can look closer at the kimono later, but that one, all the pictures are of people while they were incarcerated, and there's 71 unique pictures, and they've been triplicated, so there's like 3 of them, because I had to cover 240 squares. So, and they're fused. All the images are fused, the glass, and each square is handmade by me and a helper. And one of those helpers is Pat Mayo.
Thank you, Reiko. Does anybody else have a question, comment? Oh, are you guys scared? Okay. Go ahead, thank you.
I just want to say thank you. I never really realized how we're so connected with each other in terms of cultures. I'm a Native American, and I really appreciate your acknowledgement of the Shoshone and the Paiute and all of the other nations that have experienced what your people have experienced. But your artwork has brought such, there's a connection. I feel it in my heart, I see it in your art. But also your artwork is such a healing, it's part of a healing process that I don't think we use enough to bring out that process. So thank you, all of you. Beautiful work, and it speaks to your love of family and culture. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh,
Can I?
yes, go
I
ahead.
think I'm going to speak to that. I think the opportunity of this exhibition allowed me to take some time, to prepare for it this year, and to do a lot of thinking and contemplating about my family and other families' situation. And I did a lot of reading into, especially after the COVID, and to really appreciate all the grief and the loss that so many communities go through. So that's, and I came up with new work for this, and I think it was start to be a very healing process because, my parents didn't talk about this experience, and most of my relatives, which is pretty common. And, and that's transferred down to me where it was really uncomfortable to speak about it. But through this and going through the pilgrimage and just, learning from others, it's been a really, really transformative experience for us. And I think I'd like Kathy.
Yeah, well, I'd have to say that my latest piece, the Cherry Blossom installation, has really helped me to get through a lot of the last few years with the whole COVID and all the things that have been happening in the world. Although the installation started out to be honoring my family, today I've expanded it to include things, people who are not family members, but friends of mine, their families. I heard things on the news that really touched my heart. And I should mention there was during the Oregon fires a few years back, there was a little boy who died in the car with his dog. He was holding his dog in his lap, and that's how they, so I made a big painting for him to honor him, and I have also honored him in my Cherry Blossom installation, along with some leaders in our art community, Renee Yanez, and some friends like Lai Webster and Torrance Anthony, who was someone that worked in one of the galleries at a studio where I rented for years in San Francisco, and Ruth Waters, who I learned about recently, passed away. She is a famous sculptor, and she had a gallery here in Tanforan. So it's opened me up to thinking in a much broader way.
Judy, do you want to talk a little bit more about the BART installation you worked on? We just touched on that really quickly.
Actually, through AWA, I got the opportunity to be the curator for the BART BART exhibition within the San Bruno BART station. There was one existing, but it had to be, we decided to upgrade it or update it a bit. So I worked with quite a few people, Melissa, I don't know where Melissa might be here, and Max actually, and quite a few other people, Tomiko Nomura, I don't know if you may recognize those names, but basically I came up with what was going to be the content of that exhibition, and it's going to be permanent. It was primarily about the Tanforan Temporary Detention Center, but I decided to start the story a lot earlier than that, as far as immigration of Japanese to the United States, because a lot of those things informed possibly the decision to incarcerate Japanese Americans. So I wanted to broaden the story so that people understood what was happening at that time of the Executive Order 9066. And so I also feature a lot of artists. There were a lot of artists at Tanforan, including Obata, Minya Kubo, the Hebe family. And so I wanted to talk about how art is a way of creating resilience in a time of traumatic experience. And also, so they started an art school. So I focus a lot on that, and also have brought contemporary artists into that exhibit also. And then the exhibit goes all the way until present time. So it tells a broader story than what was originally there, and I think that's really important to show the whole spectrum of Japanese American history.
Thanks, Judy. I think another thing maybe we could think about is what is happening today with the imprisonment of the children that are coming across the southern border. It hasn't stopped. So I think it's very important to acknowledge that we are one step, but there are many, many more steps to go. Do we have another comment? Christian? Yes, thank you.
I'm Karen Yamashta, and I've seen this exhibit, and it's poignant because of my family history, but the informational aspect is just amazing, I think, just to tell these stories to a broader population, and as you've done, connect it to these issues of imprisoned children. But I also wanted to say that this group of artists is having a bigger impact. I first saw some of you in Topeka, Kansas, in the Sansei Resilience exhibit that my cousin Jerry Takigawa put together. And two of you are represented in that show as well, with the glass kimonos, and Judy has other work there, I think. But anyway, it's just of the information of art spreading stories is just wonderful, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. To just distill it, the information that we get from watching people take their history, putting it in a visual or documentary form, and then passing that story along is a really important aspect of why we do art, why we curate art. And I encourage you, whenever you see a visual arts event or even the museums, to just go. And my friend Ruth was looking at a picture, and she's like, it's a Hello Kitty head on a picture of some children in the camp, and the boys are looking out of the fence. And there's like this, I don't know, Astro Boy something. And my friend said, I don't get it. And I was like, well, we don't actually have to get it. We just have to kind of think about what that means, the juxtaposition of a Astro Boy head on the pictures of boys in incarceration, and just sit with it. You don't have to get it, you don't have to explain it back. So that's what I encourage people to do with art. Do we have another question? I thought I saw another hand. Yes, go ahead.
One of our guests wanted to ask, what happened to the homes and businesses of your family members forced to be incarcerated?
Does somebody wanna?
What's the question?
What happened to the homes and the businesses that were taken or stolen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we probably all have different stories. I'll talk about my family in that, as you may have seen in the film, they were in Washington State, and they had a oyster farm in the Puget Sound and lived in a houseboat. And when my grandfather got taken away, because he was taken away first because of the submarines that were in the Sound that they were afraid he was going to say something about, but everyone that lived and worked there knew about them. They were taken away, and they totally lost their farm and their livelihood and their home, and never went back. And yet every summer when I was a child, my father would drive us up there, and we would go to the place, and I think for him it was just this wonderful childhood that he could never return to, but he wanted us to see it and to experience it. So, and my his parents actually, and he came out of camps early to work in farm labor, and his father ended up dying in the migrant camp dirt floor huts that they were staying in. And it was such a tragedy because he had his own business, he employed a lot of people, he was a leader in his community, and he was reduced to that kind of ending, and it was quite devastating.
Anybody else want to add to the story?
Yes, my grandfather and his brother's family, they lived in Berkeley, and they leased the property where they had their nursery. It was a thriving plant nursery, and the story goes, I think they would have probably come to Tanforan if they had been incarcerated right away, but they decided they would try to, they got invited to live in Fresno with someone, just a quick, I think they stayed with this person overnight in their barn, and then they eventually ended up leasing out some property and growing vegetables, I think radishes and fast growing vegetables. But eventually it caught up with them, and they were interned in Gila River. I'm sorry I got off track here. I was just thinking about
Go ahead. We're talking
the
about the
story.
loss of businesses.
Yes,
and-
so anyhow, when they came back after the war, the nursery that they where they leased the land in Berkeley was being leased to somebody else. I've heard some conflicting stories, so this is what I'm going to say is that the land was leased to someone else and they had no nursery there anymore. But they did eventually purchase a land in Richmond, and they continued the nursery business. And my grandfather, he was alone here without his family. They were in Japan, so he returned to Japan to be with his family, and then later came back again and opened up a nursery with my father. So we have a long line of nurserymen in my family.
Anybody else on the panel would like to add to that story?
Just quickly, similar to Kathy's, my grandparents had a nursery in Sacramento, which they didn't own the land. So, I don't know the whole story, but I know that after the war, they didn't have the nursery to come back to, so they lost the business. They had a good business, and one of my grandfathers, he followed my sister. My mother got out early to go attend college in Colorado because they were quite welcoming Japanese American students, along with their brother. So my grandfather ended up there after the war, or I guess 1944. They got to left. They ended up in Denver, and they ran a noodle shop. He was quite the, entrepreneur. He was farming, whatever he did to make it, and eventually made it back to California.
Thank you, Shari. We're gonna have time
Someone-
for. Oh, sorry. Did you want to go ahead?
Sure.
We have about
Do we have
about 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Another family in the agricultural business. So my family didn't have a nursery, but my father, right before the war, he had started a very small business making fertilizer, manufacturing fertilizer in Santa Clara Valley. They lived in San Jose, and the business was taken when they were removed, when they were incarcerated, and amazingly, when he came back, when the family came back, they didn't have a home to go to, but he was able to sort of get the business back rolling again, just probably because there were so many farmers in the area and flower growers that they were all supporting each other. So he gradually just built the business up again. Did you want to say something?
When my grandfather was arrested and taken away, he got back to, he never got to see his family for over a year, but he told my mother, who was the oldest, and my Auntie Haru, who was under my mother, to sell everything they could possibly to get the money for the mortgage. And so they sold their 5,000 chickens, and they just, anything that they could sell, because my grandfather wanted that land. He wanted the land when they came back out. So they did it. And thanks to a couple from church, they took care of all the farms of the Japanese and Japanese Americans in the area. And so while they were in the camp, this couple collected money for rent, and even still, the farm was in total shambles. It was vandalized, but they had the land. And really, thanks to this Caucasian couple that they knew from church, that they were able to save their property.
Thank you, Reiko. So some of you might know, Japanese Americans got redress and reparations, and it was quite a long fight. And in the end, they got $20,000 each, which, as you can hear the stories, wouldn't cover very much, but they managed to do that. We have time for maybe one more question. Does anybody have a question or a comment? No? Don't be chicken. Sure, Judy, go ahead.
I was talking about the Bard exhibition, but it's not quite installed yet, so don't run over there to try and see it. I think it's supposedly going to be done August 27th, along with the memorial unveiling. So we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the memorial quickly?
I didn't personally work on that project, though I interacted with the committee, and they've been working on putting this memorial together for, I think, over a decade. And it's going to be outside the San Bruno BART station, between the BART station and the shopping center, and it's going to be quite beautiful. They're going to have names, all the names of the incarcerees. They're having a beautiful landscaping with cherry trees, and they are having not a replica, but a sort of a horse stable to symbolize where these people were once living and imprisoned.
So we have one more interactive project that I think Judy, you're gonna have to talk smart. Do you want people to write on your papers?
Okay. Yes, I have a piece called the Remembrance Shrine. It's lit up over there, and They are hidden within the lantern or the shrine are memories that I collected from people via social media, email, via friends, and so they're hidden within the lantern. You have to, the shrine, you have to open them up and find them, because I wanted it not to be easy for people to find these memories, because they were not shared just randomly. It was very special that these stories were given. In fact, some of the stories on there I got from Sandy Yagi, who asked her mother to write the stories, and Sandy heard those stories for the first time because her mother wanted them to be in the art piece. So after you read some of the memories, you can write your own thoughts and tie them on the bottom of the shrine.
Thank you, Judy. So I would encourage everyone to go home and interview someone. It's not an easy thing to do, but maybe you'll get one person who will say, nobody asked me that question. You might get people who will go, no, thank you. But I encourage you to do that. And one of the big questions that we had while I was working on a play was, what happened to the Japanese Americans when they came home and they got their land back, or they had to start over? And why did they not tell anybody these stories? So that's still kind of sort of open question. Some feel shame because they went to prison, and others might talk about it now. So we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you very much for staying and being a part of our community conversation. And I guess the administrative part is, if you would like to hear the artists do a little quick discussion on their pieces, so where can they meet each of you?
So next up is, so if you came in a little late, the second part of our program is a joint program with AWA, Asian American Women Artists Association, who are here today. And we're going to do a tour of the work in the gallery. So first I'd like to introduce Diana Lee, who with her crew at AWA is doing amazing things.
Hi everyone, my name is Diana. I'm the director of the Asian American Women Artists Association, as mentioned. And I'm really grateful to be here managing technology with our Asian American Women crew. And let me just pull up my talking notes while not disturbing what people are seeing online. Just a moment. Sorry guys.
Okay. So there's an audience watching on Zoom also, members. Others. Thank you. Thanks to Ava.
Sorry. I'm trying to access. Well, okay, I'll just speak from the heart. So for folks who don't know, the Asian American Women Artists Association, our mission is to advance the visibility and recognition of Asian American women in the arts. And all of the Sansei Granddaughters have been longtime members of the Asian American Women Artists Association. We're very happy to achieve our mission every year by putting on programs and events and exhibitions. And a part of that is also involving our AWA members. And so our membership is also open to artists, affiliates, affiliate art professionals, and art supporters. So if you're interested in joining, we welcome all, whether you identify as an Asian American woman artist, whether you're emerging, mid-career, whether you don't think you're an artist, but you want to help support, well, we welcome you. And yeah, I'm grateful to be here. Ivy has been chatting with the folks online who are joining us. We also have Annie, who's a volunteer here today, and Diana, who's recording the event today too. So really grateful to be here. Please subscribe to our newsletter. You can find us at www.aawaa.net. And I have cards too. You could talk to any one of us about joining. So thanks.